Hello again, Struck Club. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3's early access phase, and this one is viable for post-patch, post the subclass Relic patch. It is Wingspan Scattershot 2.0, which is a Sharpshooter plus Code Hard build. It's a rework of an old build of mine of the Wingspan Scattershot, and I tried to keep it as close as possible to the original Wingspan Scattershot. The only major difference you would notice visually would be getting rid of Frost Blast and replacing it with Snowstorm. I think it's a better option for the build and I really like it. And there's also a summoner version of the build that I'm gonna be uploading as a separate build video tomorrow. So this and the summoner both would provide you different ways to play each of the builds. So I could be showing you one build video here, but there's gonna be a few setups with the skill points, and the same would be happening tomorrow with the summon centric version of the build. So it's a nice combination. You get a lot of crowd control and you get frost skin. And you don't need to even invest into frost skins to get it, because you can just use Ice Shield as a source of 3 damage sources being prevented every 20 seconds. So if you stack it with enough block chance and with enough evasion chance, and you max this out to 40% each, and you have 36% total chance to get hit, and then make sure you have 3 sources of damage prevented every 20 seconds, that means you're not gonna get hit much, and when you do get hit, the first 3 hits are getting prevented. And if you combine that with some more frost skin from passives, you could get some very interesting combinations. The build is not some proper meta build that would be clearing everything in seconds, but it is nice. I'm missing the double damage bonus for the price of double cooldown rifle for Scattershot, so Scattershot could be doing twice as much in the hits. So let's show you the skill points first and move on to other things next. The skill points allocation for this system, for this build, is kind of simple. First, in precision, we are maxing out Scattershot, we are maxing out Targeted Strikes, and we are investing 4 points into reload with the +2 skill levels bonus from gear. In our case, I had to equip them in my legendarium instead of wearing them, but ideally I probably would have been wearing a Musketeer Cavalier hat with +1 to a specific skill that I wear, such as the blue one I'm wearing right now, that gives me 1 extra level to Snowstorm. And that way I can free up this slot and maybe use something else like the Wingspan there. Or I could just remove the arc powered shoulders, which I really like, but I could remove those if I get the Wingspan, and my DPS just requires me to wear it from the legendarium rather than equipping it, especially if I want to use a shield. If I want to use a shield or a focus, I would definitely want to swat the Wingspan rifle. So on adventure we've got Royal Shasta, 4 points, 6 levels with the gear level bonuses. Now we get 50% increased damage to taunted enemies. It's not just Shasta, it's everything we do that can get that damage. So this is a must-have skill on any build in my opinion. Then we've got 1 point but 3 levels, and 1 point but 3 levels in Ghost Visage and Sacrifice to Goose. This gives us nice crit chance, which goes over the cap of 40%, because you know we have a hard cap of 40% crit chance. They're working on certain skills to make them go over that cap. This one seems to be one of those skills, and it already is going over the 40 crit chance cap, so you can get it to 90% with this thing. I'm not sure how things like this one, 10% crit chance for precision skills, I'm not sure whether this 10% would go over the cap. I'm gonna wait for them to be done reworking stuff and then test it. Sacrifice to Goose is amazing, again something I would recommend 1 pointing into any build. Get that extra 20% damage vulnerability for Sacrifice to Goose at level 3 with the +2 skill levels. With just 1 point, it's a great investment, and it helps. Some might not like the knockback, but if you learn how to use the knockback to pull enemies closer together, it can be amazing. And now here's the fun part of the build. You've seen probably by now 34 points into Cold Heart. This is a what? This is more than half of our skill points going into Cold Heart, but I found some very weird and nice things to try. In fact, I can't wait to try your pet also pierces. This would be possible if I get a helmet that gives me +1 to one skill and +2 to another skill of the skills that I'm investing into. More than 1 point. We'll wait, but eventually it will be 35 points into Cold Heart eventually. So 5 points into Jack Dice, this is 25% bonus ice damage. Try to use a nice weapon. Some nice ice damage can be obtained if you farm enough. I've got something like this, so it's ice damage, then it's further more ice damage, and then at the bottom I'm trying to get the fire damage because it doesn't let me get ice. So I'm trying to at least get the flat fire. I don't know why, I think because they made it so that you can get the same affix twice, and the 872 ice probably already counts for the ice damage row. And at the bottom I can get fire. I did play with fire, so I can get it. Something about the gear later. But yeah, this is pretty nice. If you can get that one more point squeezed eventually. Yeah, for now this is 9 levels, but you don't have to get it. You can just keep it at tier 2 with 6, and then you're gonna have 6 points, not 6 points, but 3 points to spend on other things. If you get that extra point, you could even remove those 3 points and max out this one as well. I've got 9, but level 10 Snowstorm, and I think Snowstorm, once it gets fixed, would be amazing. Right now, pay attention to this, Snowstorm Tier 3 doesn't work, meaning regardless of whether it's frozen or not, you're gonna be doing the same amount of crit chance versus an enemy. But with this one fixed, when you're hitting a frozen enemy, you would always critically hit. This would be amazing for Scattershot, always critically hitting when hitting a frozen enemy, and not just Scattershot but Targeted Strikes as well. And I'm not sure whether this bonus would apply to our summons for the summoner build. I will have to test eventually when this is fixed. But for the summoner setup, the build video is coming tomorrow. So Ice Shield, I really like tier 1 and tier 2. I just love it. I love this skill, it's amazing, and the preventing 3 sources of damage just by itself is a huge survivability boost, especially if you stack it with Bog Chance and Evasion geared characters. Cold Front, you can just get 1 point here, or maybe just the tier 1 bonus, but I like the tier 2 bonus because it would synergize with critically hitting frozen enemies, and this freezes them for 3 seconds. Energizer, I like it. Relic energy charge rate, you want that. Believe me, you want that. So you can use Snowstorm more often and charge Cold Front more often. There's things to get. But yeah, that's the important things. 5 points here, 10 points here, or 10 levels here. And here preferably tier 2, and here preferably tier 2. The other remaining points from here you can just put elsewhere. For example, towards Relic energy charge rate, or towards damage to relic skills. There's many things you can get, I guess. But yeah, the similar version's coming tomorrow. Maybe some of you might be interested in that. Now let's move on to the legendarium. My ideal setup here would include the musketeer rope, so I can wear a blue chest like this one with flat ice damage. And I will be wearing a musketeer helmet, so it won't be here. So wearing musketeer helmet and using the wingspan here, then using dark powered shoulders, or if not dark powered shoulders, worthy mentions would be the rifle of leadership for the summoner build, of course. And then we can mention things like what was it, the Lil Drake, the sacrifice to Goose item. This could work interestingly. Another thing, two-tone pool could work well, the two-tone pool. And then also Shasta's promise can also work well, especially on the summon build. It's gonna be interesting. But I strongly suggest putting the musketeer rope and wearing a blue one with flat ice damage. Then equipping Wingspan, and for the third slot, experiment with arc powered shoulders. If you don't like it, switch it to something different, like a Leo Drake or a Two-Tone Poo or Shasta's Promise. And yeah, that's kind of my ideal legendarium. I gave you some ideas. Chronometer is also not a bad one. You can put it, you can use it if you feel like it. And for the summon version, Bone Razor while wearing the Bone Blocker is also nice, and I'm gonna be using that on the summoner version. And that's pretty much it regarding this. Let's go through the pet skills quickly. Pet skills, now that 40% crit chance is the limit, over deadlier strikes now more people might end up ignoring this. It's 15%, that's a lot, that's almost half of the cap. Almost half of the cap. It's definitely a nice aura. It allows you to not stack that many crit chance from gear. You just need another 25 more total from gear. And that's not that hard to get, especially with two-handed weapons. Now, auras like the movement speed one and the bok chance one and defender would be very useful for certain builds, especially for this build, the bok chance one. If you're at 30 bok chance and get that one, you're maxing bok chance and you can get more evasion. You can maybe even stack some defenses and lose some damage and things like that, but yeah, I really love Healing Friendship. I think regardless what build you play, Healing Friendship is nice. If you're playing on the summoner build, Necro Popper would be a fun one to try. And if you're doing the Ice Shield pet icicles, you can try Vampirism to make sure the pet survives. If you want it to survive while doing damage with those icicles. And I think that's it for the skills. Let's move on to the gear segment. And here we are at the gear segment. Before we continue forward, I like to mention that my items are pretty shitty. They're not perfect, they're not set up in the way I would want them to be, but I think it's fine. It's okay. It still does the trick, it still gets the job done. Even though I don't have the Wingspan rifle yet, and I'm not doing double damage with Scattershot for double the cooldown, I think it's still nice. This item, I don't think I can get ice damage on it. I already mentioned it, but with this patch they made it so that two of the same affix cannot roll on an item, and I think the socket on one-handed, not on two-handed but on one-handed, counts as the same affix as the one up there where I've got 872 ice. I've been able to get two-handed items socketed with the same type of damage to roll with that type of damage as well, to have 3 times that damage on a two-handed but not on a one-handed. I've been trying and I just can't. So I think there where I've got shield duration right now, over there I would really love to get fire. It's not that difficult, but I don't know why for the last many rows I couldn't get it. So I'm just gonna show you what you just need to do. You do this, disenchant, enchant, disenchant, enchant as many times as you can, and eventually you get it and it works out well. Mind you that when recording footage I wasn't using fire damage here, so I was losing DPS. So +1 to skill level to a skill you use is something I would recommend. In fact, I would recommend +1 to one skill and +1 to another skill. And if you can get that on a legendary helmet, it will be amazing on a legendary musketeer hat. I don't think you would be able to get it on legendary musketeer hat, but you can get at least 1 +1 on a legendary hat. I've gotten it once, and I know that legendary hats can draw with +1 skill level to skill X, skill Y, skill Z, etc. So get one like that, with a +1 to at least one skill level to the skills you've got more than 1 point invested into. Then you would want to wear 3 musketeer pieces, and I would suggest things like maybe the musketeer boots, the gauntlets and the shoulders, or the the gauntlets, the shoulders, and the hat. If you get gauntlets, shoulders, and hat, you can get blue boots, and blue boots can give you things like percent ice damage, like those blue boots, and that's gonna give you some DPS increase. They cannot give you FWAT. And keep in mind, if you get percent ice damage and percent crit damage, or percent ice damage and something else that you like evasion or bok chance, it could be pretty nice. I'm wearing those, and those are not bad as well, because I need 3 pieces and I've socketed my helmet, but ideally helmet would be here with +1 to one specific level of something, and maybe the musketeer boots would be replaced by blue boots. But I want the musketeer gloves, because I think they're in such a slot where I can't get damage increases as much. And it's nice, you can get some legendary ones with nice bok chance like me, or nice evasion, energy cost reduction, energy regeneration, things like that. They're not so bad. Here I've gotten something with bok chance, with damage. At the top I could have gotten some more bok chance or evasion. Evasion would have been preferred. But yeah, it's pretty nice still. And duration for sacrifice to Goose vulnerability is not a bad stat, although it's not the perfect stat for me there. A shield with FWAT damage at the top along with the bok chance. And with some more defense and maybe HP and maybe sockets would be perfect. FWAT damage at the top, FWAT damage at the bottom, and a socket where we can add some more FWAT damage. Try to match the top and the bottom, or the top and the socket as FWATs. If it's two-handed, try to get as many of the same type which matches your relic as possible for the weapons. Drat's neckband, I really love it. Get a good Drat's neckband, maybe a lot of attack speed for the pet, and bok chance for the pet for survivability. Maybe the rapid bartering token, or you can get the, which token was it? Keep forgetting the name of the other one, the invigoration, I think. Yeah, invigoration, rapid bartering, and the other one that I really like is Phoenix token, depending what you're using the pet for. Those are good for the pet, but Drat's neckband is my favorite for the color, because it heals you as well. And yeah, for the legs, definitely wear something with nice ice flat damage, something blue, something socketed with maybe some regular defense or evasion or bok chance or HP. And the same goes for the chest, something decent there as well with ice damage flat. And for the boots I already showed you, something like this won't be bad. Pay attention to items that roll with evasion or with bok chance at the top. At early levels those items scale well. They scale well. I prefer wearing a shield, but you might wanna wear an offhand or maybe go for a two-handed setup. And it's not gonna be bad, honestly, it's not gonna be bad. It's up to you. I guess with stacking bok chance from other sources you may not need the shield. But try to get high evasion and bok chance so you can stack it with ice shield for the survivability you can get from those. Especially if they fix the cooldown. I mean, if they rework the cooldown of Frostskin to be something more reasonable, like 20 seconds at level 0 and at level 5 maybe 10 seconds, it would have been perfect. But for now I don't think it's really great, but you can get some extra survivability from Frostskin every 35 seconds. And this one gives you 3 survivability, 3 hits every 20 seconds, so yeah. This together with this one eventually could be fun. But yeah, that's it kind of for the gear. I think I went through all places, all things considered. You can use skittering shoulders if you're not using the legendary musketeer shoulder. You can use skittering shoulder, it provides some nice survivability too. If you, for example, decide to go for boots, gauntlets and helmet and want those to be blue, you can just keep those two blue and then maybe get skittering there. It's not gonna be a bad choice. It's not gonna be my choice, but I used it for a while I was leveling up. It was worth it. So hopefully this clears things up keep in mind this 25% ice damage applies to your weapon and to your pet tags. So pet tags with ice would be pretty good for you as well. As you can see, 4.5 and 4.4 doesn't end up 9, it ends up 11.252 k ice damage. So definitely great. Let's show you some more gameplay footage now and talk about how I play the build, how I rotate my skills in the next segment. So there we are at the gameplay segment, and yes, normally here I tell you how I play the build, how I rotate certain skills, what combos I go after, and just in general how I like to position myself and enjoy playing the build. Since you would want to be charging Scattershot, it would be nice to probably group up some enemies, gather them up in a bunch to as much as you can, and then unleash your mayhem on them. And by mayhem I mean things like Ice Shield, things like Sacrifice to Goose, Summon Shasta, then Teleport, then use Snowstorm and Cold Front if they're ready, and then charge Scattershot. Finish with some targeted strikes, or you can just spam more targeted strikes and maybe spam targeted strikes after Goose instead of after the Ghost Visage, but then you're not gonna be critting every time. But yeah, there's many ways to do it. In general, when you get the Wingspan rifle, you would have double the cooldown but double the damage for Scattershot, and that's gonna be a great great increase of the damage, great addition. So the cooldown reduction could be useful to people who wanna go for that kind of setup eventually. Maybe sacrifice some points from other skills just so you can get Goose level 4 to get 0.2 seconds shaved off of the cooldown of Scattershot. In general, with this relic you can afford to stand in one place and charge up a shot, because you can afford to get hit, but you're still not gonna be taking one-shots. One-shots are gonna one-shot you regardless of that. I mean, even if you stack a ton of defenses and damage reductions, eventually you're still gonna be getting one-shots pretty often. But as long as you're evading and blocking some of those hits, you're definitely not gonna be taking as much damage. I mean, you're still gonna take a lot, but you're not gonna be getting hit often. And this is how I guess I end up surviving a lot in the melees, in the mix of monsters. Yeah, sometimes I'll take a lot of damage and have to retreat, but the way I play it, you can see I kind of play more aggressively because I didn't even expect this much survivability. I decided to test stacking block chance and evasion, and then it ended up becoming very nice synergy with Ice Shield, and I don't know, I really like it. I'm not sure whether you guys would like this. It's not really reliable, but it seems to be reliable survivability with the block chance, the evasion, and the negating damage taken from Ice Shield. Cold Front and Snowstorm are amazing, and on the summoner build, which I'm gonna be making tomorrow, the Snowstorm would be key to keep in mind. By the way, it's something that's worth keeping in mind right now, that Snowstorm is broken, and the tier 3 bonus that lets us always critically hit frozen enemies doesn't work. The damage of Snowstorm is also not working, so that's another way the build is getting stronger. And when I do get the Wingspan rifle, of course I will be doing much more damage. And in general my gear was not properly min-maxed, so I think people can squeeze a lot more damage from this build, especially with a two-handed weapon. And I really hope you enjoyed this version and tomorrow's summoner version. So this pretty much sums up the build. If you'd like to get notified when I upload more content, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss the content update notifications. The content you would expect to see on my channel is builds and guides and info news videos, as well as other type of content for wooters of all sorts, RPGs, ARPGs, tactical RPGs, shooter wooters, and other things in between. Thanks for watching, keep it cool, Struck Up, and until next time.